Assalamualaikum and good day everyone. My name is Nurin Jazrina binti Johri. So today I would like to present the introduction to our topic, which is Islamic finance. Islamic finance is a financial system that operates according to Sharia principles. Unlike conventional finance, it does not only focus on making profits, but also emphasize fairness, transparency, accountability, and ethical business practice. The main objective is to ensure that every financial transaction benefits both parties and follows Islamic values. So one of the main difference between Islamic finance and conventional finance is that Islamic finance strictly prohibits riba, which refers to interest or usury. It also prohibits gharar, which means excessive uncertainty in a transaction, and maisir, which refer to gambling or speculative activities. These elements are prohibited because they can lead to unfairness, exploitation, and unnecessary financial risk. Instead of earning money through interest, Islamic finance encourage profit and loss sharing, where both parties share the risk and rewards fairly. This creates as a more balanced relationship between investor, business, and financial institutions. There are several common contracts used in Islamic finance, such as murabahah, musyarakah, and mudarabah. This contract provides Sharia-compliant alternative for financings, investment, and business partnerships while ensuring fairness and transparency. Another important principle of Islamic finance is that it only supports halal and ethical business. Investment in industries such as gambling, alcohol, pork-related products, and other prohibited activities are not allowed. This ensures that financial growth is achieved through responsible and ethical economic activities. So besides focusing on business, Islamic finance also places a great importance on social responsibility. Through mechanisms such as zakat and wakaf, wealth can be distributed to those who are in need. This helps reduce poverty, improve community welfare, and promote greater social equality. Furthermore, Islamic finance provides financial service for a wide range of people, including individuals and small business. This improves financial inclusion, encourages entrepreneurship, and supports long-term economic development. Finally, Islamic finance is considered more stable because it is based on real assets and avoids excessive speculations. Since transactions are linked to actual economic activities, the financial system is generally less exposed to financial bubbles and market instability. As a result, Islamic finance is increasingly recognized worldwide as an ethical and sustainable alternative to conventional finance. Before we move to the next section, let us first understand one of the key prohibited elements in Islamic finance, which is gharar, or uncertainty in financial transaction. That's all from me. Thank you.
Welcome and hello everyone. In this slide, I will explain the meaning of gharar. Gharar refers to uncertainty, ambiguity, or excessive risk in a contract or business transaction. It happens when one or both parties do not have clear information about what is being bought, sold, or agreed upon. In Islam, a business transaction must be based on honesty, transparency, and mutual consent. This principle is supported by the Quran, where Allah warns believers against harmful and deceptive practices. Therefore, Islam prohibits transactions that involve excessive uncertainty because they may lead to disputes, injustice, or exploitation. However, not every type of uncertainty is prohibited. Small and unavoidable uncertainty that doesn't affect the contract significantly is generally accepted. In short, the main purpose of prohibiting gharar is to protect the rights of all parties and ensure fairness in every transaction. Next, let's look at the perspective of the four major Islamic schools of thought regarding gharar. First, the Hanafi school. The Hanafi school state that gharar exists when the outcome of contract is uncertain. Therefore, contract with significant uncertainty should be avoided. Let's move to the Shafi'i school. Similarly, the Shafi'i school consider gharar as uncertainty in the outcome of contract that may cause unfairness between the contracting parties. Moreover, the Hanbali school. The Hanbali school makes a distinction between minor and major uncertainty. Minor uncertainty, which is difficult to avoid, is acceptable. However, excessive uncertainty that may cause dispute is strictly prohibited. Lastly, the Maliki school. The Maliki school also prohibits Gharar in commercial transactions. However, it is slightly more flexible in charitable contracts where a certain level of uncertainty may be tolerated because the objective is to benefit others than gain profit. Overall, although the four schools have slightly different approaches, they all agree that excessive Gharar should be avoided to ensure justice, transparency, and trust in Islamic financial transaction.
So next, I will explain why Gharar is prohibited in Islam. Gharar is prohibited because it goes against the principle of justice, transparency, and protecting the right of everyone involved in the transaction. In the simple word, Gharar happens when there is uncertainty in contract. For example, when the price, quantity, or quality of the good is not clearly known. And the Prophet Muhammad SAW strongly prohibited this kind of transaction. As mentioned in the hadith, he said, "Do not sell a thing which is not with you." This is mean that a person should not sell something that they do not own or that is not clearly available because it can lead to confusion, dispute, or even fraud. Although the word Gharar is not directly mentioned in the Quran, the principle is clearly reflected in Surah Al-Baqarah where Allah commands us not to consume on another's wealth unjustly. This shows that Islam prohibits any transaction that involves unfairness, deception, or uncertainty. Because of this, all major Islamic scholars, including Imam Abu Hanifah, Imam Malik, Imam Shafi'i, and Imam Hanbal, agree that Gharar is haram. The main purpose of this prohibited is to prevent fraud, avoid dispute, and ensure that no one gains an unfair profit or suffer an unfair loss. So overall, Islam encourages business transactions that are clear, honest, and fair for both parties. Now, I would like to explain the type of Gharar. In general, Gharar can be divided into two main types, which are Gharar Fahish, that are also known as major Gharar, and Gharar Yasir, which is minor Gharar. The main difference between these two types is the level of uncertainty involved in the transaction. So now let's start with Gharar Fahish. Gharar Fahish refers to a high and excessive level of uncertainty in a contract. This happens when the important elements such as the price, the product itself, and the quantity or even the delivery time are unclear or not specific. Because these essential details are missing, the transaction becomes unfair and can even resemble gambling. In this situation, one party may benefit greatly while the other party suffer a significant loss. And one of the main characteristics of the Gharar Fahish is that important information is not clearly stated. Both the buyer and the seller should fully understand and agree on the terms of a contract before making a transaction. However, if key information is missing, it creates confusion and may affect the validity of the contract. For example, imagine buying clothes online, but the seller does not mention the exact size, color, or material and the product specification. When the buyer receives the item, it may be completely different from what they expected. As a result, the buyer may feel deceived, and this can easily lead to dispute between both parties. Another example is selling fish that are still swimming in the sea before they are actually caught, or selling crop that have not grown yet. Since nobody can guarantee that these goods will exist or be available, this buyer is taking a very high risk. This is considered a Gharar Fahish because this uncertainty is excessive and may cause injustice and financial loss. So now let's move on to Gharar Yasir. Unlike Gharar Fahish, Gharar Yasir refers to a small and unavoidable level of uncertainty that commonly exists in everyday taxation. Islam recognizes that it is impossible and to eliminate every single uncertainty in business. Therefore, minor uncertainty is tolerated as long as that does not affect the main purpose or value of the contract. One of the reasons why Gharar Yasir is allowed because it does not cause major loss, does not create opportunities for fraud, and does not lead to serious dispute between the parties. In Islamic jurisprudence, there is a principle that says al-Gharar Yasir Maghfur, which means minor uncertainty is forgiven. This principle allows business activity to continue smoothly without making transaction unnecessarily difficult. There are many examples of Gharar Yasir in our daily life. For example, when we buy fruit like watermelon, apples, or durian, we cannot know exactly what the inside look until we cut them open. Even though there is a small uncertainty, people still accept the transaction because the risk is minimal. Another example is buying clothes without knowing every tiny detail, such as the internal stitching or every hidden part of the fabric. Similarly, when using a public toilet, everyone pay the same fee, even though some people may use it for only few minutes, while others stay longer. These small differences are considered normal and do not disadvantage either party. So to conclude, the main difference between these two types is the degree of the uncertainty. Horror fahish involve excessive uncertainty that can lead to fraud, dispute and injustice, which is why it's prohibited in Islam. And the other hand, horror yasir only involve minor and unpredictable uncertainty that does not affect the fairness of the contract. So it is generally affected under Islamic law.
Now let's move on to the impact of Gharar on contract validity. So in Islamic finance, the existence of Gharar doesn't always produce the same legal effect. The impact depends on the severity of the uncertainty involved. So the first one is the void outcome. So if the contract contains excessive Gharar, this contract becomes void or batil. This happens when the uncertainty affects essential element of the contract, such as the subject matter, price, quantity, quality, and ownership. For example, selling a product that doesn't actually exist or can't be delivered is considered excessive Gharar because the buyer doesn't know what they are purchasing. So, such uncertainty can easily lead to fraud, speculation, dispute, and conflict between the contracting parties. The second is the disputed outcome. So, not all Gharar automatically invalidates a contract. In some cases, there's only moderate ambiguity, which may still be acceptable if it doesn't affect the main purpose of the agreement. For instance, if there are minor uncertainties that do not change the rights and obligations of both parties, the contract may still be valid. In Islamic finance, this issue can often be resolved through clarification, amendment, or additional documentation. So this will make sure that both parties fully understand the terms before continuing the agreement. So the last one is the enforceability loss. Even if a contract is not completely void, unclear terms can make it difficult to enforce. For example, if the payment schedule, repayment terms, or procedure are not clearly stated, financial institutions may face legal or operational problems when they're trying to implement the contract. Similarly, if procedures are vague, customers may misunderstand their responsibilities, and banks may also have difficulty taking appropriation because the contract itself lacks of clarity. Now let's move on to see how Gharar can be found in some contemporary financial products. So the first example is conventional insurance. So in conventional insurance, there is uncertainty regarding the amount of compensation that will be received and when the payment will be made, since this depends on whether a claim occurs in the future. So another issue is that policyholders are not guaranteed any return on the premium that they have paid. If no insured event happens during the policy period, the premium may simply be lost without any financial benefit. In addition, many insurance contracts contain complex terms and conditions that are difficult for customers to fully understand. So this lack of transparency creates information imbalance and may expose customers to unfair treatment or exploitation. For this reason, many scholars consider conventional insurance to contain elements of Gharar, although Islamic finance offers an alternative through takaful, which is based on mutual cooperation and shared responsibility instead of uncertainty and risk transfer. The second example is the blind box. A blind box is a product where buyers make a payment without knowing the exact item they will receive. So the contents remain hidden until after the purchase. So this resembles the concept of buy al-gharar, which refers to a sale involving excessive uncertainty about the subject matter of the transaction. So consumers often purchase blind box based on speculation and hope of obtaining a rare or a valuable item instead of knowing exactly what they are buying. As a result, repeated purchase become a common because buyers keep trying to obtain rare collectibles. This purchasing behavior closely resembles gambling, where people repeatedly spend money hoping for an uncertain reward. Therefore, from an Islamic perspective, a blind box transactions may contain elements of gharar because the object of sale is uncertain at the time the contract is concluded. So I will pass to my friend.
Now I will explain about the Sharia-compliant mechanism to reduce the element of gharar, which refer to excessive uncertainty or ambiguity in the transaction. In Islamic finance, gharar is prohibited because it may lead to unfairness and dispute between the parties involved. The first mechanism is murabaha, which is also known as cost plus sale and purchase contract. In murabaha, the bank first purchases the asset requested by the customer. After that, the bank sells the asset to the customer at a price consisting of the original cost plus an agreed profit margin. Since the bank actually owned the asset before selling it, the transaction is based on genuine trade instead of lending money. This contract does not involve riba or interest, making it more transparent and stable than conventional loan. The second mechanism is salam, or an advance payment sale contract. In this contract, the buyer pays the full amount at the beginning, while the seller delivers the good at a future date. Salam is commonly used in the agriculture or trading sector, where farmers or producers need capitals before the harvest. To avoid gharar, the contract must clearly specify details such as the type, quantity, quality, price, and delivery date of the goods. For example, a buyer may pay RM 50,000 upfront and the farmer agrees to deliver 10 tons of rice at the agreed time. Unlike finally, we have takaful, which is Islamic alternative to insurance. Unlike conventional insurance, the takaful is based on the principle of risk sharing rather than risk transfer. Participants contribute to a common fund known as the Tabarruk Fund, and these contributions are considered donation. The fund is then used to assist participants who experience losses or misfortune. This cooperative system promotes fairness, transparency, and mutual assistance while reducing uncertainty. In conclusion, murabaha, salam, and takaful are important Sharia-compliant mechanisms that help minimize gharar by ensuring transparency, clear contractual terms, and ethical financial practice. This mechanism reflects the Islamic principle of fairness, justice, and shared responsibility. To conclude, gharar refers to excessive uncertainty in a contract. It occurs when important elements such as the subject matter, price, delivery, or the quantity and quality of an asset are not clearly specified before the agreement is made. In modern finance, gharar is commonly found in derivative and short-selling transactions, where price, ownership, or delivery may be uncertain. This speculative activity increases the risk of dispute and may result in unfairness between the contracting parties. According to Sharia principle, a valid contract must be based on clarity, transparency, and mutual consent. Both parties should be fully understand and agree on all essential terms before entering into a transaction. In conclusion, avoiding war help ensure fairness, protect the right of everyone involved, and uphold the integrity of Islamic financial.